All right, team, let's get into it. Today we're tackling something that is absolutely critical for all of us, the 7-pay test. Now, I know it can sound a little intimidating, right? But trust me, understanding this inside and out is the key to staying compliant and really to doing right by our clients. So let's just jump right in and break this thing down.
Okay, so let's set the stage. Imagine this. You hear that an internal audit is coming up, and you find out their number one priority, their main focus is policy over funding. The big question we all have to ask is, are we ready for that? And this is about more than just passing an audit. It's about really, truly understanding the risks so we can protect our clients from day one. So when we're talking about this audit and this idea of overfunding, what's the one thing, the one major compliance failure we have to prevent? It's accidentally creating what's known as a modified endowment contract. You'll hear it called a MEC. That right there, that's the core risk. Everything we're going to talk about today is all about making sure that never happens.
So what in the world is a MEC? Well, it's not some kind of special policy you buy. It's a regular life insurance policy that gets a permanent negative label stamped on it by the IRS. And why does this happen? It's pretty simple, actually. Too much money went into the policy too fast. It broke federal tax laws. That, in a nutshell, is overfunding, and it's the giant red flag auditors are trained to look for. Now, to really get a handle on why this happens, we had to look at the rule book. And in our world, that's the Internal Revenue Code. There are two key sections you need to have on your radar, 7702 and 7702A. Honestly, the best way to think about them is like two sides of the same coin. One gives a policy its power, and the other one sets the limits. So here's how they play together. Section 7702, that's the good stuff. It's what tells the IRS, hey, this is a life insurance policy, and that's what unlocks all those amazing tax advantages. But then you have Section 772A, which is basically the watchdog. It creates this thing called the 7-pay test, and its only job is to stop people from using these policies like supercharged short-term tax shelters. So yeah, one section gives, and the other can take away.
Okay, I know. The 7-pay test sounds a bit technical, a little abstract. So let's use a super simple analogy to make it completely clear. We're gonna call it the premium bucket analogy. And seriously, this one mental image is gonna make everything click.
Here's how you can picture it. Every new policy starts as an empty bucket. Simple enough, right? Now, for each of the first 7 years, the IRS draws a fill line on that bucket. That's your 7-pay limit for that year. Every time a client pays a premium, it's like pouring water into the bucket. So what's the test? It's just this: making sure the total water level never, ever goes above the fill line for that particular year.
All right, let's put our premium bucket analogy to work. We're going to look at a real-world example of a policy that's funded correctly. This is what it looks like to stay below the line and pass the test with flying colors. Okay, check this out on the chart. That cumulative premium column, that's our water level. And the 7-pay limit column, that's our fill line. So in year one, we pour in 10 grand. The fill line is 12 grand. We've got plenty of room. Pass. Year two, we add another 10, so our water level is up to $20,000. But look, the fill line also went up to $24,000. Still safe. Pass again. You see the pattern? The water level is always under the limit. This is what perfect compliance looks like. And this right here is what we're always aiming for, a compliant policy. Because it passed the test every year, it is not a modified endowment contract. And that means the client gets to keep every single one of those awesome tax advantages that make these policies so powerful. This is the goal every time.
But now, let's see just how easy it is for things to go sideways. We're going to use the exact same policy, the same person, but we'll make one small change in year 3. And you'll see how this single action can trigger a massive compliance failure. This is where that audit risk gets very, very real.
So just like before, years 1 and 2 are totally fine. We're well under the limit. But then, boom, look at year 3. Let's say the client wants to pay a bigger premium, $17,000. Now watch what happens to our water level, that cumulative premium. It jumps to $37,000. But what was the fill line for year 3? $36,000. For the first time, we've poured too much water in the bucket. And just like that, the test has failed.
And this is the part that you absolutely have to remember. The second that water level went over the line, the policy was instantly and permanently reclassified as a MEC. There is no going back. I mean, none. There's no undo button, no grace period, no appeals process. It's done. Once a MEC, always a MEC.
So who cares, right? Why is this such a big deal? What are the actual consequences of failing this test? For the client and for us, especially when we're staring down the barrel of an audit.
It all boils down to taxes. See, a compliant policy gets this really nice first in, first out, or FIFO tax treatment. That just means when you take money out, the IRS assumes you're taking your own premiums back first, so it's tax-free. But a MEC? It gets flipped to last in, first out, LIFO, and that is a penalty. It means any money you touch, even a loan, is considered taxable gains first. The main tax superpower of the policy? Gone.
Oh, but it gets worse for the client. Not only are the gains taxed, but they're taxed at their regular income tax rate. And if the client is under age 59 and a half, the IRS hits them with another 10% penalty tax on top of everything else. This can be a huge, unexpected financial blow for a client. And it's exactly the kind of thing an auditor will latch onto. So this brings us right back to where we started. Understanding this whole flow, from the tax code to our simple bucket analogy to the really serious consequences, that's on us. So the central question we all need to be asking ourselves is this: in my day-to-day job, how am I actively watching for this? How am I monitoring policies to prevent this from ever happening? Because answering that question, well, that's how we get ready for any audit. And more importantly, it's how we do the absolute best for our clients.